Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. And today, I'm going to continue my Disney movie marathon. And I'm going to be reviewing the original Cinderella film. But to be more specific here folks, I'm going to be talking about the special diamond edition for this particular movie. So, I would use this as an excuse to talk about Cinderella, of course, which is one of my favorite movies from Walt Disney. But of course, as usual, I do have to talk about the plot of this particular movie. So, let's get into it, shall we? Oh yeah. In this movie, we get to see that pretty much Cinderella herself is this kind, sweet woman whom cares for nature, and of course she has these friends, these mice, and I guess that would make sense, of course. But then at the same time, but she gets treated miserably by her really selfish evil stepmother. Yeah, the stepmother character became one of the most recognized villains in the Disney animated movies. And yeah, she's pretty terrifying in her own little way. So yeah, folks, as if that's not bad enough, she gets mistreated by the two other stepsisters as well. Yeah, these two stepsisters, they're pretty much brown noses to the stepmother, of course. She's part of a wealthy family, obviously, and she has proved that she can be bigger than they are, so to speak, and still remain kind. Okay. This formula is pretty basic in some ways, but it's the way that Walt Disney himself had executed this formula. Yeah, she's pretty poor in some ways, I guess, and she's in some ways she does lose motivation, but she wants to keep up anyway and doesn't want to give up. Because if she gives up, she'll be no better than they are in a lot of ways. But of course, the mice friends and the other animal people characters want to pretty much make an outfit for her. And of course, that doesn't go quite well. And she eventually meets up with the fairy godmother who makes up that iconic dress. Oh, but watching this on Blu-ray is really, really nice, folks. Watching this on Blu-ray, you get to see all these detail, and that's the thing, folks. Cinderella is one of those golden age Disney animated flicks that came to Blu-ray quite a while back. And there's been many special edition versions that came out. The other special editions, maybe I can review it later, I suppose, folks. But the picture quality in this particular movie is really, really good. Talk about high definition. Of course, you're going to need an HD TV, obviously, of course. But the picture quality in this is really, really good. It's definitely top notch. And I did like some of the behind the scenes that were delivered in this particular package. In some ways, I do wish that there could have been more of the behind the scenes. I mean, what they have is pretty decent, I guess. But just in some ways, feels like there could have been a bit more. And I did like the way that the main menu is set up. The main menu for this particular thing is nicely set up as well, with an animated background and whatnot. That's pretty cool. So stuff like that I like, but I still left desire to be more of it. Just saying, folks. Nevertheless, folks, in this particular format, you get to see all the colors, all the lining and whatnot is really being brought to life. Well, I still enjoyed it more than the remake. The remake was just awful, just really terrible. Some people liked it more than the original, but I don't understand that. That was terrible. Not exactly the worst remake I've seen, but it's still pretty bad, folks. Just so many plot holes in that. Anyway, sticking with this one, mind you very much. This isn't the traditional hand-drawn animation, and it looks fantastic. Of course, one of the best aspects of the film has to be, aside from the storytelling, is the animation. I like the frame of references they would use, and I do like the multiple editions they would have over the years. Even though it might be kind of annoying because you had to buy so many different versions of the same film. But anyway, in addition to the early sketches of the Glass Slipper and Fairy Godmother, the studio Disney has released some photographs from the live-action references of the film shot for Cinderella that combine the live-action with hand-drawn art, which were used to draw on sort of movements of the characters and whatnot. The film was printed in small story prints and such. So of course, a lot of ways they would trying to use in ways that do make the movements seem realistic and whatnot, which of course is totally fine by me. I actually like this. They don't do this anymore, this kind of animation, but
it's actually quite nice if you ask me, folks. So that's definitely a good thing there.
With regards to audio, the audio aspect of this is really nicely done, folks. And if you have a nice audio set on your own, so yeah, if you have the proper sound equipment, it's gonna sound fantastic, folks. Because the sound quality in this version, the Diamond Edition, is definitely top notch. And I really like that. Yeah, it's a Disney movie, but there's a hints of nudity, folks. I mean, there's nothing explicit, really, folks. But those, as far as I'm concerned, that's fine, folks. Some pop idols would actually have some sexy outfits as well, folks, which would make sense when you think about it. I mean, the point of the story is that she's gonna fall in love with somebody anyway, so having some intimacy along with the romance would actually make some sense here. Which would strengthen the bond, and it's a part of human nature anyway, so again, it would actually make some sense here. Yeah, I know some parents aren't gonna be so angry about showing a tatted skin, but whatever. What are you, some idiotic communist or something? So back off, will you? Anyhow, folks, I did like this movie, and I did like the backgrounds. You know, they were really beautifully drawn. Even up to this very day, the animation is outstanding. Love the backgrounds, folks. The backgrounds are beautiful to look at, especially when it's on Blu-ray. Good to see every detail on the characters' faces, whether they're happy, maybe a little sad, nervous, angry, or whatnot. You can see the detail in the beautiful HD quality in this picture, folks. So, of course, this gets a highly recommendation from me. There's a few things they could have added here and there, folks. So, in some ways, I did feel that it could have been more behind the scenes in here, folks. So, in some ways, it did feel rather lacking. But anyway, folks, I would still recommend this film anyway. I just get this version of the film. I mean, there's other special editions that came out throughout the years, which I could always use as an excuse to bring up in the next Disney movie marathon.
I know that in Hollywood, there's been plenty of people who want to make a ton of sequels and whatnot. By which I mean, especially in the superhero comic book stuff, regardless if it's, for Marvel or DC, there's been expanded universes with these characters. And I know this kind of a thing was done before, even prior to these movies. Like, for example, the Star Trek. Star Trek has an expanded universe, and it spans decades, of course, with the TV programming as well. Hell, there's even the Gamera trilogy that was made during the 1990s. Those movies are pretty good. And even the other character, James Bond, has an expanded universe, and he has quite a few movies. And of course, this goes into the horror genre as well, to some degree, by which I mean you do have to count the character of Dracula. I guess in a way he has lots of films interlinked one way or another. Which could be pretty cool, but what I'm saying here, this kinds of stuff can be rather exhausting in some ways because there's so many movies in which you have to watch, of course. And so it just comes off maybe most of the time they might be just doing it just for money and nothing more. I mean, there's a few exceptions to the rule, of course. But and I guess a case in point is the Star Wars lore, which has been expanding for quite a while in books, video games, and whatnot. So yeah, so on and so forth. I'm bringing up this kind of a thing because is that I honestly don't want to see this done to Cinderella, really. I just don't want to do that. I think as a one time is good enough. And besides that, on top of that, folks, there's always these plenty of kung fu movies that I'll be watching. It's already hard enough that I'd be catching up with that. I mean, I don't mind really. I like watching these martial arts films. Hey, wouldn't it be pretty cool if Cinderella knows kung fu? That'd be a cool idea there. Well, anyway, with all that aside, the original creator, Walt Disney himself, never cared for sequels, really. He's the type of person that never liked sequels to begin with. Maybe just him, I guess. I mean, I guess it could work if Cinderella has a sequel and maybe followed by several more. I mean, when you think about it, there's definitely plenty of books. I mean, there's plenty of novels and whatnot that the producers could look into. I mean, you do have to do some research on storylines, and that's one thing you can do. I'm so pretty sure there's plenty. I do mean plenty of novels they could easily adapt into a Cinderella sequel. You know, use that as inspiration, rewrite the script. I guess you can say. I don't know. There's plenty of ideas out there that could make it work. I guess. Even though I myself can be rather iffy when it comes to sequels. I guess. I mean, a lot of them could be bad, but I mean, you can make it work somehow. I guess. I don't know, in one way or another. But anyway, folks, this film is definitely a classic, and I don't regret buying it. This certain version, the HD quality is definitely high right there, folks. So be sure to check out this version of obviously because it's definitely a must a must buy if you're a fan of animation, of course. The picture quality is really top notch in this version of the film, folks. So I can say that even the sound is really good. So when it comes to the music that you would hear through the entire film, it's really nice to listen to, folks. So the sound is beautifully restored here, along with the visuals, of course. So it's pretty entertaining, especially if you're a Disney fan at heart. So the way it was restored, it was really nicely done, folks. So I guess this is definitely one of those great classics that did stand within the time. So I did appreciate the fact that they really took their time to really put the effort into having these sort of additions with these characters. Yeah, this is definitely one of the better additions that they made over the years. There's been other additions, some better than others, I guess you can say, but this is definitely a pretty good addition for this, folks. So if anybody does not have this version of this film, I would say definitely get it. So those the voice acting is really nicely done. You can actually hear it in the quality in here, folks, because like I said, I did like the voice acting in this. So it's been really restored. It definitely looks a lot better than some of the other DVD copies in which I had of this film. So that's definitely a plus there. So with that in mind, this film does have some subtitles, which I thought is a good thing. The subtitles for this film are in English, or English for the hearing impaired, and the Spanish, along with the French. So that's a good thing there, folks. And there's different levels of the audio, of course, which that was a good thing. And the coding for the region is region free, so that's definitely a good thing. Disney, of course, did a pretty good job in this one when it comes to all the aspects of this. The background colors are really nice to look at. You get to see every fine detail in this version anyway, and it's really gorgeous to look at. Its flawless contrast is really nicely done, rich in detail in the background and the movement. So it's been, again, like I said, it's really beautifully restored here. So it's pretty impressive in its own little way. You know, there's no sound. I mean, there's no commentary, sadly. I kind of wish they had commentary over this, but oh well, I guess. But anyway, with that aside, there's some an introduction. There's some classic Disney backstage featurettes, some deleted scenes, alternate openings. But anyway, folks, overall, this was definitely a solid movie. One thing I can definitely say is that at the time, Walt Disney Production had been suffering from losses in connections to the Europe film markets due to the outburst of World War II, unfortunately. So as a result, there's been some box office bombs like Pinocchio, Fantasia, Bambi, all of which became more successful with the several re-releases in theaters as the years went on, along with the whole idea that these films also will released in VHS tape, DVD, and Blu-ray. At the time, however, the studio was over $4 million in debt and was on the verge of bankruptcy. So the thing is that in this film, folks, what happened is Disney, when he was alive, and his animators turned back to feature film adaptations and whatnot, film production in the year 1948 after producing a string of package films with the idea of adapting film of certain ideas certain ideas from the books and whatnot into film. This was the first Disney film in which Walt Disney 9 men, so to speak, worked together as directing animators. After 2 years into production, Cinderella was finally released on February 15th of 1950. It became the greatest critical and commercial hit for the studio since Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, which was released in 1937, and it helped to revive the studio's fortunes. And the thing is that, not only that, folks, Cinderella, this film, it is often considered to be one of the greatest films of all time, and one of the best of all time. It was received 3 awards, which includes Best Picture, Original Song. Decades later, of course, it was still remembered as a classic, so to speak, by many, which of course is definitely a good thing. And I would recommend anybody who have not seen this film as of yet. So, I wouldn't mind watching this film again because it's a really top-notch film. I like the overall plot, its message, and the way it was handled. So, of course, I did like the story here, folks. And, I mean, granted, it may not be the most complicated, complex puzzle of a story ever made, but then again, it doesn't have to. So, overall, I did like this film the way it was made because I liked how it was done. When it comes to home media, I should say, the film Cinderella was released on VHS tape and Laserdisc in 1988 as a part of the Walt Disney Classics collection. The film was released, of course, early on, of course. So, on October 4th, the film of 1995 was released again in VHS format along with Laserdisc under the name of Masterpiece Collection lineup. So both editions were occupied with the Making of Cinderella featurette. There was the a special edition Laserdisc version that included a featurette hardcover book retelling of the classic fairy tale with some pencil tests. And of course, there's been plenty of collector items for this particular movie. So, I like that, of course. And I did like how they really took care of this film overall. And you can tell they were really passionate about this movie. And that's the thing, folks. You don't get these movies like this anymore. You really don't. And it's sad to say, yeah, the hand-drawn animation is missed. Why I personally don't mind the CGI stuff nowadays that Disney is producing, but in a lot of ways I do miss the hand-drawn stuff. There always has been a special charm when it comes to the hand-drawn animation overall. But anyway, I know lots of people do like the hand-drawn animation, and this is one of the reasons. So, overall, folks, this is definitely one of Disney's best pictures, and is one of the most successful as well when it comes to hand-drawn stuff. And she's definitely one of my favorite princesses as well. Yeah, I know, I just said that. I know a lot of people would be expecting me to say something else because I'm a guy. But, whatever, yes. I know some people would just find it weird that grown men, would enjoy these types of movies. But hey, this is my YouTube channel, and I can review and talk about whatever I want. I know that's been a pretty lengthy video, so thank you anybody ahead of time that's been actually patient enough to actually sit through this. I really do appreciate that. But anyway, one of the things I would make a compliment is that the dialogue. The dialogue is actually quite good in here, folks, because, again, the script is nicely done. And when it comes to dialogue, I know that child films aren't really known for that, really. But the dialogue here is actually quite nice. So, if each character in this film does have their own type of dialogue, by which I mean the way Cinderella would say her lines, not just the voiceovers sound, but the way she would speak. You could tell the way Cinderella would speak, she's Cinderella. And the way that, the stepsisters would speak, the way the evil stepmother would speak,
You can tell that each character within this film has their own mannerism when it comes to speaking, which I thought was a nice touch. I know this kind of a thing isn't hardly ever spoken upon when it comes to movies, but I do like the fact that they're really paying attention to detail when it comes in the way the characters speak. Each character, again, have their own manners, their own mannerisms in which they would speak. And even the way they would move, you could tell that's part of the character. You know, uh, the character of Cinderella, she's very feminine in her own way. She has her own sense of grace, of course. I know with some people, it's really hard to pinpoint what is feminine and what is not. And lots of people out there do have their own idea of what is feminine and whatnot. So, that's the thing, folks. I'm not really here to debate that or anything, but I'm just giving my 2 cents here. Because I did like how she was moving her, like the way she would speak, the way she would be moving her hands and whatnot. It's definitely something that's really nice in her own way, of course, which I thought was a pretty good thing there.
Over the years, people always wondered what does it mean to be feminine. And of course, the thing is that it doesn't mean you're weak, it doesn't mean you're pathetic or anything. It doesn't mean that you're bothering others, of course, and whatnot. You don't have to pretend that's something you're not, of course. So, another thing, folks, you're still gonna be really girly, really feminine, soft, but still strong at the same time. And in some ways, you can see that in Cinderella. I mean, yeah, it's not really about being the most glamorized ever. We're gonna have the best eyelashes and the big collection of shoes or whatever. So, and the thing is that she's still her own woman. She can have an understanding. She can be sympathetic, which in itself can be rather, feminine in a little way. So, not people always seem to wonder what's this whole idea of feminism and whatnot, what's feminine and whatnot. So, there's a bunch of ways you can actually answer that, of course. There's no direct answer question to that kind of thing, at least not in my eyes anyway. And lots of women out there always seem to have their own idea of how to be womanly and whatnot. Especially, the whole idea of being a woman did actually change over the years. Keep in mind, this was made back in the 1950s. So, there's that. And the way things would be like back then were different back in the 1920s. And definitely, things that are going on right now are definitely different back then. So lots of people out there might have a hard time pinning down what exactly is a womanly figure, a womanly idea, how to act like girly and whatnot. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be weak and closed-minded, obviously. So even the evil stepmother is womanly in her own way. And of course, one thing is that for sure, a lot of people want to bring up the outfits. Maybe that could be some way, maybe soft colors like pink or whatever. And you could even argue to some degree that even the stepsisters right here, they could be girly and the womanly in their own way, in their own, I guess, version of it. You can say even the fairy godmother can be womanly in her own way. So that's definitely something to think about. It is a good thing to explore, I guess.
I'll say I did like this film, and I'm glad to buy this particular copy of it, folks. And one of these days, I do plan to get another copy of the other versions of this particular movie. And so yeah, overall, folks, if you don't mind having a spare copy in your Disney movie collection, then in that case, I would say highly recommend it. Definitely. So yeah, the music is nicely done, of course. Great audio allows you to hear it, folks, and that's great right there. The Diamond Edition gets an overall rating of an 8.5 out of 10. It gets an 8.5 out of 10 from me. And as always, thanks for watching, and take care. See ya. Oh yeah.